Well, hello, everybody. This is your host, Valerie Kane, with another round of How to Live and Thrive in the Rich Flow of Life. I am so happy to say today that I am joined by our very own Dan Christian. He is the award-winning author of the book, Dealership Deceit. It's all about how to buy your next car for way less than you can imagine. Oh, my goodness, it's a new day now where the buyer can be informed and go inside any dealership feeling comfortable and knowing with the tools and the resources, the tricks and the trades that Dan teaches, they can come out on top. Isn't that right, Dan? And welcome, 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 welcome.
Well, thanks, Valerie. Thanks for having me on your show once again.
Oh, awesome. So lead into it, Dan, and just tell us, why would a dealership be willing to lower their asking price or even sell a car at cost? Can you let us know about that?
Well, for sure. And I just want to mention that I just, first of all, recently had my book launched last week at an event in Toronto.
Awesome.
Yes. And I wanted to address some of the things that I was asked most often. And that question was actually asked quite a bit. So I'm going to address that.
Very cool.
So there is, dealerships can sell either new cars or used cars most of the time. So first of all, to answer the question with regards to new cars, dealerships, when they buy a car from the manufacturer, they buy it for the price known as dealer invoice price, and most of us know what that is.
Yes.
And they sell it for a number called the the MSRP, the manufacturer suggested retail price. But what the listener probably does not know is that the manufacturer rebates a portion of the money back to the dealership once a new car is sold. That portion of money is called the dealer holdback. So let's say that a dealership buys a car from a manufacturer, sells that car to a car buyer, and let's say they sold it at dealer invoice. Now, you would think that the dealership did not make any money on that per itself, but actually, afterwards, the dealership goes back to the manufacturer and says, I sold the car that I bought from you to a customer, and the manufacturer says, okay, here's your rebate.
Wow.
So dealerships actually do make around 2 or 3% off a new car sale. They get money from the manufacturer for selling that car, but most people don't know that that is happening behind the scenes.
I didn't know.
Yeah. So knowing this is important, but it's also important to keep in mind that do not use this as a primary negotiation tactic because that does, not only does that offend the people at the dealership, it'll sour the negotiations a lot more than they would already be when you're using the other tactics that I talk about. So it's best to mention this if they tell you at some point that if they sell it at dealer invoice that they don't make any money on the sale, because in fact they do, just they make the money after the sale. And this is not even mentioning trade-ins or financing, which dealerships also make money at, or the service shop. Now, in the terms of talking about used cars, dealerships acquire used cars most of the time one of two ways. They either buy someone's trade-in or they buy it from an auction. Now, if you want to talking about buying someone's trade-in, most of the time, because they're selling the customer a newer car or a new car, they will find some way to convince the car buyer at that time to trade in their car for a lot less than it's actually worth, because buying a car is an emotional decision, and it's easy to convince someone to give up their car for less than it's actually worth, because maybe that person doesn't know how much they can actually sell their car for, or they're going to end up with a low monthly payment anyways, and the dealership is offering convenience by taking their current car off their hands. So dealerships own auto body facilities, or most dealerships own auto body facilities, so they can get the cars repaired and upgraded for really cheap. And when they turn around and sell the car, even at the wholesale price, they will still make a hefty profit. And that also, in turn, works with buying a cars from an auction. Most people, or a lot of people, especially those of us who are not exactly handy or car savvy, are probably
Right.
afraid to buy a car in auction, because you don't know what the problem is and what kind of mechanical issues there are from those kind of cars.
Right.
The dealerships own service facilities, and they don't pay their mechanics what you and I pay to have our car fixed or up serviced. The dealership pays them much lower. They're a service shop. So turning around and selling these cars for profit is very easy, even if they only sell the car for wholesale price.
So how do you, Dan, you would recommend us? I know, like you said in a previous call, that it's just always better for us to sell our cars our own selves. But just like you just mentioned, that since we don't have privy to the mechanics that the dealerships would have, how would we work that out to where we could still come out on top with selling the car ourselves?
What would happen is, are you talking about how do we sell our current car or buying a newer car?
The current car that we're having, the one that we own now.
Yeah. So to make sure that we do get the most bang for our buck is we sell it on your own through a service such as Craigslist in the States or Kijiji in Canada. Okay. Most of the time you will get much more if you sell it privately for your car than you would trading it into the dealership. I would even suggest putting a couple $100 fixing something or making the car look nice, and then you can sell it for even more.
Oh, okay. I never considered that. All right, putting a little bit investment into the car. Okay.
Yeah.
You just always think getting rid of something, you wouldn't do anything further to it. So that's interesting to know.
Right. But that's what dealerships do. They just put a couple hundred. Now, granted, it's cheaper for them than you or I, but still putting a little bit of work into the car before selling it, you'll be able to get a couple $1,000s easily more for the car you're trying to trade in or get rid of so you can get the newer car.
Okay, awesome. So we learned something new there. Put just a little bit of work into it. Didn't take much.
Yep.
And so are we able to use the mechanics, the same ones that the dealership use, or is this like off limits to the consumer out here?
We can use the same mechanics that dealerships can use. We're not going to be able to get it for the same price. We're going to have to pay observantly more. So I would suggest finding an independent mechanic in your area. Make sure that they have good ratings on Better Business Bureau. Make sure they're registered with them and read their reviews. But I would go with an independent mechanic first.
Awesome. And I was actually at the same book launch for Dan's book. And I was so impressed at the conversations that I saw people just swarming over you about there. And I just heard somebody going on about some Haggle situation, and I didn't really pick up on that. So I was going to ask you when I talk to you again to explain the whole concept of Haggle to me. Can you break it all down for me, Dan?
Sure. So haggling is involving trying to negotiate with the dealership to get a better price. Most dealerships do allow their customers to haggle and trying to buy their car for a lower price than the dealership's trying to sell the car for. But a lot of car buyers do not like this process at all. They feel intimidated, and this process can take a lot of time because the dealership's trying to employ psychological tactics to make the customer wait and do a whole bunch of other things. So there are a bunch of dealerships that are going a no haggle route. So they're actually not allowing haggling to occur. They say, and they advertise that the price that's on their website or the price that's written on the car, that's the price the customers will pay, no more or no less.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
And now, and having these conversations, people were asking, so can you still haggle with these dealerships, even though they advertise themselves as no haggle dealerships? And the answer is no. If they did, it would look very bad on them. So, first of all, they would have terrible media. They'd have terrible reviews, and even get a terrible listing through the Better Business Bureau because that's false advertising. If they do allow people to go lower on the price, what does that say about the customers or for the other customers that purchased the vehicles from the dealership at the listed price? So it looks very bad for the dealership. Also, they could actually face repercussions from the body that gives them their license.
Oh,
So
really?
there's organizations that give dealerships licenses and give them the ability to sell cars. Yeah. And
wow.
they would actually face repercussions or penalties, or could even have their license suspended if they did allow customers to haggle with them to try to get them to lower the price on a vehicle.
Well, how would they ever know? Do they send in like representatives to check them out, or there's like customers shopping, or inside shoppers that find that out? How would anybody ever know that they're breaking this haggle code?
Mystery shoppers is one venue. Also, it would be customer complaints. So if somebody were to buy a car and they were to advertise and somehow write on like a Facebook post or a online review that, they were able to lower the price even though it was a no haggle dealership, then other people would be able to jump on it. And then, they could do a lot of things with that. Wow.
So this was a concern that I did hear a number of people going over as I looked over and I saw you signing their books, and, this is like a really hot topic, this whole haggle business. And so that's pretty cool. I never knew that there was actually laws and rules governing that part of the portion of the business, and they can actually get fined and, shut down for something like that. That's pretty cool. So anything else you want to cover on the haggling?
No, but this does lead to another thing that I do want to cover, and it does go back to the licensing of dealerships and how that works and how dealerships and salespeople are allowed to sell cars. And another question that I was asked quite often is, what happens if after I leave a refundable deposit, the dealership turns around later on in the negotiation and says, you know what, this deposit is actually no longer refundable. You've signed this and this sheet of paper, and therefore we can't give the money back to you. Now, you, the listener, is something I really, really want you to understand. You have not officially bought the car until you have the keys to the purchase in your hand. The dealership has the keys to your trading if you're trading in at the dealership, and you have a signed purchase agreement. I'm not referring to the document that you and the salesperson and the dealership manager used to negotiate the purchase of your car. I'm talking about an agreement which says I, the car buyer, agree to purchase this vehicle from the dealership at this price, at this interest rate. I will get this and this and this benefit, and the dealership will get this and this and this benefit.
Okay.
I do advocate that you do leave a refundable deposit. Make sure that it is refundable. Get something in writing from the dealership that says, yes, this deposit can be refunded if the customer decides, or if the dealership decides that this deal is not mutually beneficial, or have them, and most people have smartphones nowadays, so you can actually, with the salesperson's permission, of course, or probably not even, record the salesperson saying that, yes, this deposit is actually refundable. If the dealership turns the tables, you can actually go to the body that represents dealerships in your area and licenses dealerships. So for your listener in New York, in the state of New York, this is a branch of the Department of Motor Vehicles. So it's the New York DMV. You can lodge a complaint with them, or you can tell the dealership that you will go to the DMV if they refuse to refund your refundable deposit. In Ontario, this organization is called OMVIC, Ontario Motor Vehicle Industry Council, and to my listener in Alberta, it's called AMVIC, Alberta Motor Vehicle Industry Council. I have the websites for all of these licensing bodies at my website at dealershipdeceit.com. So what I suggest is go to that website, figure out who licenses the dealerships in your area, and if the dealership turns around and says that the refundable deposit is actually not refundable, during the course of the negotiation, make sure you let the dealership know that you can actually go to this body and launch a complaint. Launching a complaint with this body is really bad for the dealership. It might result in having their license suspended or even revoked, or they might have to face penalties, and they'll start getting a blacklisting. So you can also threaten to go to the media, and the media will start publishing bad reviews or advertise that this dealership is actually not practicing good business practices.
Right. But your method clearly distinguishes says that you should leave a refundable deposit. So that's the first key, is that when you sign your paperwork, it should definitely say that it is refundable, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Because
go ahead, Dan.
No, I was going to say, because if you do leave a deposit, but you don't have any proof of the dealership and you agreeing that it's not refundable, then you have much less of a legal leg to stand on.
Right. Okay. So I got it. That is amazing, good information. And like I said in the beginning, it's a new day now where the buyer can and will be informed if they listen to what Dan has to say. He is the master teacher trainer when it comes to buying your car, your next car, for way less than you could ever imagine. Dan, I thank you kindly for being with me. And this call is concluded. Is there any final thoughts or closing remarks you have for our buyers out there?
Yes, and thank you for that, Valerie. There is one other suggestion that I have for you, the listener.
Yes.
Please visit my website, dealershipdeceit.com. I have a bunch of great tips on there for you that will save you even more money at the dealership.
Wow.
And I have a free download. It's the 7 ways dealerships will overcharge you without you noticing. Reading these tips will already save you a ton of cash on your next purchase. It's just a 30-second read, but knowing all this, you will already be in a much better position to save a ton of money or buy even more car for the same amount of money that you're going to spend.
Wow. Well, Dan, thank you so much. I don't take lightly that you took your time out to be with us and share and give us this invaluable knowledge. I'm just so happy for the people that will be served by your message, by your knowledge, your training, your teachings. I know they're out there, and they have told me even when we were at the conference there in Toronto how, wow, I'm so glad you took a quick break, and they were just swarming all over me to talk to you. So I was like, oh, my God, he'll be back in like less than 5 minutes. And I couldn't wait till you return so you could take care of these folks with all these questions.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So it was just an amazing event, and I'm so proud. I want to commend you on your book, the launch of it and everything. And I could see and witness with my own eyes that you sold very well. So there's no question about that. And I hope you continue success. And
thank you, Valerie.
Yeah, and always. You know that I love you dearly. So thank you, Dan.
I love you too, Valerie.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.